had economic growth for the past 30 years of about 2% per year, but that's not benefited the poorest people in our society. We've still seen throughout that period about a quarter to a third of people in Scotland living in poverty. So we really need a different measure of economic success. So the Humankind Index was our attempt to produce that alternative measure of success. So what we did is we went out and spoke to about 3,000 people in Scotland, and we asked them what they need to live well in their communities. And we particularly went out to the most disadvantaged communities. We wanted to hear from what we call seldom heard groups. They're often termed hard to reach groups by government, but they're not actually hard to reach. You just have to go out and be in their community and listen to what they have to say, and you have to resource that process.
There's a real problem here in Scotland, I suspect, from what I heard from all sorts of sectors, about how you can get those challenging new ideas in, and how the central bureaucracy at local and national level can be challenged into new thinking.
You need the trust that, yes, for example, trade unions can sacrifice a bit of individual wages for the social wage. That concept is central, and employers will realise that their taxes are improving conditions of productivity, so that will come back. How do you get onto that trajectory? That is very, very difficult indeed. And we also need to think about the structures of government as well, how our government is organised in such a way as to allocate resources strategically. How can you make sure that the resources are going where they're best delivered, where they can get the best social or economic or environmental return?
If change is going to be delivered in the economy, then more people need to be involved in the democratic process.
A bit of a picture of Willy Wonka, the film, the kids' film, because there's a point in the film where Willy Wonka sits back and says, I'm intrigued. And I think we're kind of at that point in Scotland. There's a lot of people who are intrigued by the model. What we need is one or two people with the courage to make it work and do one or two, and I think we're getting to that point now.
The only way you will get a different type of contribution to the world from banks, this personal view of mine, is if there is wholesale restructuring of the banking system, which require, I think, the breakup of the banks for the banks to be very different. That's a matter for competition policy and regulation, either at Scottish level or the UK and beyond.
What are the winners and losers in the Scottish economy, and what are the practical solutions or proposals that we need to look at to move away to a more collaborative economy that tackles poverty and inequality. Those discussions are getting a bit of traction, but I think there's a big jump from getting a bit of traction to setting in place those policies that will make an actual change.